Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Success Insight podcast. Our guest today is Vicki Wusche. Now, before the age of COVID-19 and the coronavirus, Vicki would have described herself as a best-selling author, an international speaker, business mentor, focused on helping her clients enjoy a non-traditional retirement. Now, in the days of the coronavirus, self-quarantining, Vicki has a new goal, a new passion. It's to help those same people and others come to grips with their present circumstances of being home, quarantined, perhaps you've been laid off, you've been furloughed, and she has some wonderful insights that she is able to share with us. And it stems from this wonderful experience she has as an educator and an entrepreneur, a speaker, a realtor. So without further ado, let's just get right into this. Vicki, welcome to the Success Insight podcast.
Hi, Howard. Nice to meet you, and thank you for inviting me.
Fantastic. No, Vicki, before we kind of dive right into, what are we doing mindset-wise? People are struggling, in a lot of different ways. Let's share a little bit about your backstory, how you got to where we are today, if you would.
Okay, thank you. I'll try and give you the potted version of it. And I think really if we start with, I used to be a university lecturer, a job I absolutely adored. I was passionate about it. But what I remember was that I wasn't proper staff. I was considered to be a visiting lecturer, which meant I only got wages when I worked. And so I took on another project, which I equally loved, which was where I first started working with entrepreneurs. And then I got made redundant. And we had a chat before the show about this term redundant. So I was redundant, no longer required. And
I don't like that term.
No.
I do not like that term.
No, and you used the term in America, laid off. And it would have been much nicer if I'd been laid off, but I wasn't. I was redundant. And there's a whole moment in your life when that happens. I knew it was coming because I had to make all my team redundant. And I was like the last one of 7 of us. So I had to make 6 of them redundant, and I was the last one standing because I couldn't make me redundant before I made them redundant. So I knew it was coming. But still that day, it's awful. It's a sinking feeling. It evokes the emotions. And you have to pull yourself back from this. And I thought, well, it's easy. I've been teaching about business. I've been working with this knowledge transfer between the university and businesses. I can do this. I can start my own business. I'll be a consultant. And actually, it's much harder in reality than it is in practice. It's a beautiful recipe between something you're passionate about, something that you're good at and have experience of, and then turning that into a product or a service that people want and want in volume, and at a price it's worth you doing it. And people wanted what I did because they knew me. I had a reputation. I was passionate about it. I was good at it. But I had trained everybody in my database to be paid by the government. They never handed the money over to me when I worked with them before. I was this free person that would come in because the government paid for me. And so when I then turned around and said, oh, hi, Howard, you know how we've been working together on these amazing projects the last couple of years, helping refugees get jobs, helping the homeless, helping businesses succeed, but it's now going to cost you a daily rate. You went, oh, I don't have the funds for that. So it was a really interesting lesson. And I just decided I was never going to put myself in this position again. And the word control comes up a lot for me. It makes me smile when I say it. I know my family would laugh if they were listening in on this conversation because they refer to me as a control freak. I don't have a problem with being a control freak because I'm in my own little bubble, and as long as I can be in charge of it, that's fine. But it's really interesting now in COVID times that is what's been taken away from everybody. And I don't feel threatened by it because I just see it as an issue of control. And then in terms of how my mindset deals with it, I focus in on what I can control and don't worry about the things that I can't control. So it's really interesting how you can use your mind as if it was a muscle as if it was your voice, as if it was a tool, whatever you want it to be, and you can use it to work for you to help you in this situation.
My question then, and I still hate that word redundant, it just brings up, it's basically being told you're no longer needed. We don't need you anymore. At least when you're laid off, you can chalk it up to finances, stuff like that. So here's my question. So enough about my little soapbox there. My question is, so many people today, whether you are low, moderate, high income, you are going to be affected by the COVID-19 virus. Your way of living, your lifestyle is going to be affected. Some more severely than others because there's still a social economic effect that's going to have to take place. The virus is the great equalizer. It doesn't really care your race, your religion, your economic status. However, we're so used to, in many cases, we consume stuff. What's your thoughts on changing the mindset for people who've never even considered, what do I do? What's available to me? What choices can I make?
Well, this is going to be different depending on what country in the world you're listening from. You're going to have various government supports. And again, we spoke about this on a previous call. Your government is sending out, I think, like a one-off check at the moment. The British government is doing this thing where they are paying 80% of a person's wage in February. And this isn't going to be forever and ever. So this is for like the next 3 months. And that 80% of your wages is going to be limited. So if you earned approximately 45 to 50,000 pounds or more, then you won't get your full wage. But under that, you'll probably get 80% of your wages. And 80% of your wages is quite good because you won't have your travel expenses. You won't be picking up that shop-bought coffee or that shop-bought sandwich. And of course, you can't be planning and saving up for your summer holiday, all of that sort of stuff. So a lot of the spending is going to come down. But then on the other side, what we really need to be aware of is, where did that money come from? You know, whether it's your check or it's our 80% furlough, or we've got government loans and we have something called universal credit. You have welfare benefits, I think. Where is all this money coming from? I mean, we watch the news and it's billions and billions and billions of pounds. And we're only a few weeks into this in the UK. It's borrowed money. So just as the same on a family level, we have borrowed money. This is the government borrowing the money and they're going to have to pay it back, and they're going to have to pay it back with interest. My hope is that all of the leaders of the world get together with the World Bank and they sit down and they say, look, let's wipe all our debts off, or let's cancel all our interest so that we can help the world heal much quicker. But that's a whole nother that's my soapbox to get on. So what really matters now for individual families, because this is what it boils down to. You're locked in. If you're locked in, or however it is, you're being forced to socially distance yourself, you're being isolated. In amongst that challenge is the opportunity for you to get more financially intelligent, more financially aware. And really, that is step 3 in a sort of a process that I would love to share with you. And I think we can really help your listeners work on their mindset, but not in a woo-woo or anything weird way, a very practical way that they can work with their mindset, and then building on that strength, then start to look at their finances. Because my wish for everybody out of this, my wish for everybody is that you survive and that you're healthy and that you don't lose anyone you love, know, or anything else. I can't do anything about that. But what I can do something about is I can teach you how you can come out of this more financially intelligent, not incurring unnecessary debt, and stronger, both mentally and financially, for the brave new world that we are going to face at the other end, because nothing is going to be the same again.
Vicki, you've written a number of books in your career. I know a lot of them dealt with real estate investing. And is there one in particular that provides this kind of roadmap that you're alluding to? And I guess I would also ask, is this roadmap extensible to other countries, other cultures. I mean, your culture, our culture, we're similar, but yet we are different.
Yeah. So if I just give you a little bit of the lead up to this, in about 2017, I was diagnosed with early onset arthritis. And it was so severe that I had created ulcers inside my hip sockets, which meant I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk around the supermarket. I couldn't drive. I couldn't sit. So the speaking career was stifled. I couldn't drive to invest in properties. I couldn't stand. I couldn't, because my shoulders were so bad, I couldn't pick up my granddaughter. So everything was going wrong. I couldn't lift my arms to put plates in the cupboards. And I was very lucky that I was in a position where I was offered the opportunity to have replacements and repairs and everything else. And they were going to basically make all my four corners bionic. That's how I think of them now. But it's a massive decision. I mean, one of the things that was giving me nightmares is that part of the process was the man actually has to like cut through the bone in my leg. What if something goes wrong? You know, I'm going to go to sleep. I might wake up with a new bionic hip and repaired leg, or I could wake up with no leg at all. And it was this awful decision. I had this whole imagination of what my life would be like. And I think that's how the whole world was before COVID. We were all poodling along, doing our thing. Some loved their lives. Some didn't love their lives quite as much. Some people had everything they wanted. Some people didn't have what they want. But then, bam, everything's changed. And it's not us doing the changing. Something is imposed on us. So I'm not saying that my arthritis is anything like the scale of COVID-19. But me on a personal level, bam, my life was going to change. And so I feel like I've been through some of the thinking in advance, because I really had to think, what matters in my life most? What do I value most? And if I'm going to go through 4 major operations in 2018, I'm not likely to be able to work. So what am I going to be able to do to provide the finances I need in my family and keep myself going? Meet my financial commitments. So I really had to go through all of this in late 2017 as a plan. And that's, in a sense, what everybody's being asked to go through now. And one of the things that I did while I was recovering is I wrote a book. And it's my 5th book, and it's called The Wealthy Retirement Plan, a revolutionary guide for living the rest of your life in style. And I so wish that I had named the book The Wealthy Future Plan, a revolutionary guide. If only I'd known COVID was coming, I would have used that title. Because basically the book is saying, 1, you need more financial intelligence. But in order to get you to do this, which is something you've never been taught in school, and you probably on your big list of things financial intelligence isn't up there on the top list. What you need to do is understand what's really important to you. What do you value? And I think that's such a pertinent question for everybody now. And once you know what matters to you and how you want to live your life, how you want to live the rest of your life in the style of your choosing, then use your new financial intelligence to create a financial plan so you can have what you want. And what you're going to want in the brave new world after COVID is not going to be, I would suggest, what you wanted back in January. Your values will change through this experience. But in amongst this challenge, we've got this opportunity, we've got this space, this time, and then we can go through the process and understand ourselves better and then make the financial plans. And that's what I would love your listeners to get. I would love your listeners to become really motivated, inspired, and take practical steps to deal with them mindset and then move on to their financial mindset as well. So their personal mindset and their financial mindset.
What are your thoughts on folks that really are not used to having this conversation within for themselves, the not self-talk in a negative way, but what do I need to do? How do I protect myself? How do I protect my family, my community? But they're just not used to having that conversation. We've never been trained to have it.
But then we didn't have the word COVID and coronavirus. Stuff happens. We didn't have the internet a couple of decades ago. Life changes and with this virus, you can see how quickly the pace of life changes. This is just the pace of life changing, and it's a new skill. And this might sound hard, and I don't mean it to sound hard, but you have a choice now. You've got to fight the physical virus that is COVID. And in order to do that, you need to follow some rules and you need to stay healthy. And you've got to fight the financial virus that is coming. And in order to do that, you need to get educated and you need to manage your money. And you've got to do both.
I was thinking about this, one, as I asked the question, and really now as you have provided, your insightful answer, is no matter where you're at, you can start with a conversation with anyone of any class, gender, race, etc. I work with a lot of, we call them help desk associates, folks that support, financial institutions. And these are here in the US, they're not typically the highest salaried employees around. So they all have their struggles. So helping as a coach, helping them first by asking them, how are you doing? On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your life like today? And what's your biggest struggle today? What is going well for you? So we have a tool we used when we first went through coach training called a wheel of life. We did health, a family, money, et cetera, on a scale of 1 to 10. So I think having those conversations with anyone, by starting there, we can then help them understand where they're at, things that they can then do to change whatever circumstance that they're in, or would change or take steps to change whatever worry they are facing. We may not be able to solve the problem for them, but we can also then help them understand this is the issue and then help them through the steps that they can then take.
Because if you don't become consciously aware of what the issue is, then you've got no hope of dealing with it. It's bringing these things forward into our mind that we can be stronger and be empowered to tackle them. And that's why at the end of this, I still feel that it's often about finances, because even in the way that you described the people that you typically work with, finances will be an issue, but we don't talk about money. I know you probably do culturally a bit more in America, but we're so reserved about talking about money in the UK. We're ridiculous about it. It's just not polite to discuss money, but actually it then ends up eating away at you. It's this stressor that isn't necessary. And there are just 3 simple steps that people could be taking now while they've got this time at home that would improve their personal mental health and strength, their family mental health and strength, and then prepare them financially to come out the other side. I don't know how long each of us is going to be locked in. Some of us, depending on where we are in the cycle, it might be another 2 weeks, it could be another 6 weeks. The point is, this doesn't have to be a lengthy process. It can be something done relatively quickly, and it can be something that can be revisited a couple of times over your lock-in period as things change for you. And that's just where my passion is now, that if I could help the whole world come out of this stronger mentally and financially, because I believe that if we're in that place, then we can think so many creative thoughts that we could go on and basically heal the planet. And now I'm going to wander off very briefly, if I may, Howard, onto a little soapbox that out the other end of this, if we've realized our different values and we've coalesced around them as a family, and then as we start to come out of isolation, we gather both in physical community groups and online groups, and we start to realize, what happened? There were a lot less planes in the air, a lot less cars on the road. We've dramatically improved the health of the planet in terms of, helping the ozone to heal. We really want to make that a priority now. Or what we did here was, with all the empty hotels, we moved all the homeless people off the street and into the hotels, and hopefully, I don't know the details, but hopefully they're getting help. What if COVID-19 cured global homelessness? Not just now at the moment, but actually then what we decided as a priority was we weren't going to open these hotels up to the tourists and just throw all these people back on the street. We weren't going to let that happen. We were going to do something about it. And on all the other things, bullying, the bullying that goes on in the classroom, that can't happen if the kids aren't there. It might be happening online. But if parents are homeschooling their children, maybe the children are getting more resilient against online bullying and not experiencing face-to-face bullying, and maybe bullying stops. Who knows all the things that we could cure and fix and make better when we come out the other side. But we can only do that if we are mentally strong and financially prepared.
You know, what a wonderful opportunity to sit virtually in this case, because if we do something like this, you and I, this is going to be a virtual conversation, working with groups wherever they might be, you know, kind of doing a check, a triage, so to speak. What are the biggest challenges you have right now? And then walking through with them some of the things that they can do a little bit differently, because now they have the time, because we're not, like you said, we're not having to commute to work. You know, my commute is about 20 feet.
Boy, you go a long way.
I got a long way. But we have some time and opportunity to really address some of the chronic issues that we have been facing. And I thought it was interesting you mentioned the ozone layer. I mean, again, this virus is essentially showing, maybe it was Mother Nature basically saying, excuse me, guys, but we're getting out of hand here. I mean, I think in some ways it gives us hope. I mean, it's terrible, but it gives us hope. And I really love that you have taken what you do best, teaching people about business and about finances and coming up with alternative means to take charge of your life, not having to worry about the job, and making a difference. And I love that you've done that. And I love this book. And, you know, I don't know how many copies you have sitting in a box somewhere, but it's probably worth renaming it and republishing the book. Vicki, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. And I think you and I could continue, because we have some very strong thoughts, and it's not opinions, thoughts, ideas on what we can do in this time, because it certainly is. It's terrible, it's sad, but it's an opportunity to come out of this better than what we went into it as. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Could I summarize just very quickly 3 things that people can go away and do and leave them with some practical tips? Have we got a moment for that?
You know, I would love if you would leave our listeners with those 3 practical tips.
So I think the most important thing to help you get some sense of control is to put structure into your life. So whether you want to carry on with a pattern of Monday to Friday and Saturday, Sunday, or whether you want to say, I'm going to get up in the morning and exercise, then I'm going to do the work I have to do from home, and then I'm going to have family time in the afternoon. However you want to structure your days, horizontally or vertically, build a structure and let all the family know it. If you're living on your own, still create a structure and share that with your family and your friends so that we know when we can communicate. Put those times in. Let's have a webinar on a Wednesday afternoon. Book meetings with people so you have those opportunities to communicate. That's something everybody can do, and everybody can feel like they're then in control of their time. So that's a great grounding and a great place to sort of start your mindset. Then when you've got that feeling of being a bit more in control, the second thing to look at is having family conversations. So either with the people in the house, the property with you, or via Skype and Zoom and everything else with family members if you're widely spread, about what matters to you now. You know, start the conversations maybe with ringing and speaking to your family members and sharing how much you love them. Start sharing how much you appreciate them. Start sharing how proud you are of them. And then start to look at things that you love doing. So we've been sharing pictures at the moment. Over the years, we always have an Easter family get-together, and we've been sharing the pictures, and we can see the children grow up every year, all with these piles of Easter eggs. So what memories can you share, and what conversations can you have that help you start to think, you know what, that's really important to me. Love is really important to me, or trust is really important to me, or control is important to me, or family is important to me. And then, as we spoke about just a few minutes ago, actually, I'm really pleased about that piece on the news that our government is doing X. That's really important to me, that people aren't homeless, that the ozone is protected. So you can start to see what your values are. You can then start to share those within your family group. And then as the lockdown eases, you can start to share those out into the wider community. Now what you've got is both a positive, in control mindset feeling. And now you've got purpose and passion and values. So that lifts you up a level. And that's going to give you the strength to now have the tough conversation. And this is the tough conversation I really want you to get to and not leave off the table. This is the triad. This is going to make your table strong by giving it 3 legs. And that's finances. And you don't do this alone. You don't take this on yourself. You do it as a family group and you discuss money. This is how we used to spend money. This is how we're going to have to spend money now during this period because income is restricted. And then, given what we know and what we value, this is what we'd like to prioritize our money on coming out the other side. And I really want everybody to do it, whether you do it on Excel spreadsheets or a calculator and a piece of paper. Go through your old bank statements and your credit card statements for January, February, March. Now you can do it. And add up how much money you spent on travel, on petrol, on household bills, on rents and mortgage, on food, on going out, and just start to look at that because you will feel that same feeling of being in control. It will give you control over your money. And then you won't need to get into unnecessary debt because you can make informed choices. So structure, values, communication above all else, and then taking control of your finances are going to put you in such a strong position when we come out. We will be able to do anything. We are going to be superhuman when we come out the other side of this, and we are going to fix all the world's problems because we fixed our own first.
That's fantastic. Structure, values, communication, and talk about the finances and what's most important. Vicki, once again, thank you for joining us on the Success Insight podcast. If our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, pick up a copy of the book, and we'll most definitely provide a link back to the book on Amazon, even under its current title. Where's the best places for them to go?
Well, it'll be the website, so it's easy once you know how to spell my name, and I know, Howard, you'll do it for me. But if you look up vickiwusche.com, then you'll basically be able to find the website. One of the things that's on the website is a scorecard that goes along with the book, so you can get a little personalized report. There's plenty of other resources there, but also I'm on all the social media channels, and I think you'll put the links in the show notes for me. The one thing that you could do that's quite easy is search the hashtag Wushenomics, which is sort of a play on my name. So WHOOSH and then ONOMICS. So it's merging the whoosh sound of my name with, economics at the other end. So Wushenomics, and you'll be able to pick up on old posts and videos and things like that.
That's fantastic. And we will most definitely provide the links back to the website, to scorecard, as well as the social sites and also the hashtags too. Vicki, thank you so much again for joining us on the Success Insight podcast. It's been a enlightening and, dare I say, informative, and I love its hopeful conversation with you. And what I love about this podcast modality is this ability to get to know and connect with people all over the world, people who have very much a heartfelt view that I use the term all boats rise when the tide comes in, that, we're all growing and thriving as a result of the changes we can make. And it's not just about me, it's about my family, my loved ones, my community. And that just, again, a podcast is just a great platform for that. So thank you again.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Howard. I've really, really enjoyed speaking with you. I've got a massive smile on my face. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, folks, we have just been chatting with Vicki Wusche. And again, Vicki, in her previous life, author, speaker, entrepreneur, helping people think about retirement. But in the age of COVID-19, this coronavirus, this global pandemic that we're in, we need to have different kinds of conversations today, and really to understand not only what is important to us, but really understanding what do we value, what do we really want in our lives for ourselves and our family, having conversations with our family, talking to them about what we're going to be doing, what we can't do, what we want to do, and really stepping away from those computers, those video games, sitting down having a conversation that matters. And if we have that conversation, we can then recreate what financial independence means for us and our family, and with the support of our loved ones in the community. So we hope you enjoyed today's podcast with Vicki. Again, we'll provide all those links back to her sites in the show notes. If you like this podcast, please do comment on any one of our podcast platforms. Our main podcast site is successinsightpodcast.com. You can find us on the podcast platforms iHeartRadio, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on YouTube. You can find us on LinkedIn and Facebook, successinsightpodcast.com. Lots of opportunity. We really want to provide a service to the community. It's not just about getting out there and making money. Money's fine, but we also want to make a difference through the work we're doing in this podcast. So folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, be safe, stay healthy, have a happy and phenomenal day. We'll see you on the next episode of the Success Insight Podcast. Take care now.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.